Since the Christmas celebration passed, one small but strange thing began to steal the attention of the army around the world. There was no major announcement, no official clarification, not even a direct statement from Jungkook. But it was precisely in such silence that many fans felt that something had changed. BTS's Jungkook, a figure who has been known to be consistent, stable, and full of energy, looks as if he dropped after the supposedly warm and happy Christmas moment. At first, it was just a small whisper on social media. Some of the soldiers noticed Jungkook seemed to appear less frequently. His response seemed shorter, and his cheerful aura seemed to be dimming. There is no excessive dramatization, but it is enough to make the fans who have been sensitive to the slightest changes feel uneasy. "There are different ones," wrote an army on platform X, a simple sentence that went on to be liked by thousands of people in a matter of hours. Christmas is always a sensitive moment for idols, especially for Jungkook, who is known to value personal and family time. Over the years, he rarely exposed his celebration, but always took the time to greet the army in his trademark manner. This year, the greeting is still there, but it doesn't feel as warm as usual. Not cold, nor distant, but like someone who is holding something in his heart. Speculation has also sprung up. Some suspect Jungkook is physically exhausted after a long schedule with almost no breaks. Some feel this is emotional fatigue, the kind of fatigue that is not seen, but is felt most heavily. Jungkook is not a complaining idol. On the contrary, he is known to always show his professional and strong side before the public. But the army knows, too well, that Jungkook is also human. Some fans attribute this condition to the career cello phase, which is often talked about later. Jungkook seems to be at a point of reflection, a time when a person pauses not because of defeat, but because he wants to understand himself. After years of endless running, Christmas could have been the moment that opened a silent space in his head. And in that space, all the emotions that had been pinned up finally came to the surface. Korean media began to highlight these changes, albeit with a cautious tone. There were no words trouble or crisis, but phrases like more closed and calmer than usual began to adorn the news. For the general public, this may be normal, but for ARMY, who has followed Jungkook since his debut, this small change feels big. They know how Jungkook is usually present, how he laughs, how he greets, and how his energy flows. What made this situation even more emotional was the way the army responded. Instead of demanding an explanation, the majority chose to remain silent and make room. The comments section is filled with simple but touching phrases. "Take a break when you're tired," "We're here," and "It's okay not to be okay." Those lines show the unique relationship between Jungkook and his fans, a relationship that is not built from demands, but rather from empathy. Some army even recalled Jungkook's old statement about pressure as an idol. He once said that there were days when he felt empty, but still had to smile. Christmas, which is often considered a day full of happiness, can actually be the most difficult moment for someone who is questioning many things in his life. Especially for Jungkook, who from a very young age assumed a great responsibility, not only as a member of BTS, but also as the backbone of many people's hopes. There are also those who attribute this condition to Jungkook's awareness of a new phase of his life. Age, career, future, and personal identity can be a burden on the mind that comes along. Jungkook is no longer in the spontaneous teenage phase. He is now a grown man who understands the consequences of his every step. Awareness is beautiful, but also exhausting. Interestingly, there is not a single sign that Jungkook really fell. It does not disappear completely, does not show a negative attitude, and does not make impulsive decisions. That is precisely what makes the army even more convinced that this is not a scandal or a big problem, but a very human internal process. A down phase that does not always have to be explained to the public. Behind all the speculation, one thing is the common thread: concern. ARMY did not feel disappointed, they felt worried. The concern is born from the emotional closeness that has been built up over the years. Jungkook is not just an on-screen idol. He is a figure who grew up with them, whose voice accompanies many phases of his fans' lives. Until now, Jungkook has not given any explanation, and perhaps there is no need. Sometimes, silence is the most honest way to say that someone is processing something. The army seems to understand that more than anyone. They didn't wait for clarification, they waited for Jungkook to feel ready. Christmas has passed, a new year has begun, and perhaps Jungkook is standing between two worlds, a past full of accomplishments and a future still full of question marks. If it is true that he is dropping, then it is not a weakness, but proof that he is still human, still feels, and still true to himself. And for the army, one thing is clear. Whatever Jungkook is facing after this Christmas, he is not alone. In silence, millions of people around the world are sending the same prayer. May Jungkook be well, in his own way, in his own time. Jungkook's silence after the Christmas celebration actually enlarged the room for interpretation. The more he didn't speak, the more army tried to read the small signs that might have gone unnoticed. The shorter way he greets, the noticeably more cautious uploads, to the longer than usual time lag, are all composed by fans like pieces of an emotional puzzle. Not to judge, but to understand. Many army noticed that Jungkook later looked more mature in a quiet sense. It is no longer an overwhelming euphoria, but a calmness that almost feels heavy. There was a feeling as if he was learning to turn down the volume on his own, as if he was making peace with something that could not be shared with the public. For idols of Jungkook's class, learning to keep quiet may be much more difficult than performing perfectly on stage. Some old fans remember similar moments in the past, when Jungkook once disappeared for a moment, then returned with a different aura, more mature, more controlled, but also more fragile. Each phase of Jungkook's down is always followed by a big leap in his career and maturity. That's what makes the army torn between worry and trust. Worried because he looks tired, trusting because Jungkook always knows how to get up. Christmas itself for many is a time of reflection. In the midst of light, gifts, and collective happiness, often a person is faced precisely with his deepest loneliness. Jungkook, who from a young age lived under the spotlight, may have felt Christmas in a different way. Not just a celebration, but a pause that forced him to look inside. And not everything found there is easily accepted. There is also army that highlights Jungkook's empathy side that is too big. He is known to absorb emotions easily, thinking of others before himself. After Christmas, a moment usually synonymous with family and warmth, that emotional burden can accumulate, especially if there is longing, responsibility, or feelings of guilt that are never spoken. It is such things that the camera rarely sees, but very real are felt. Interestingly, the industry's response contrasts precisely with the army's unease. No sign of panic, no ostentatiously canceled agenda. It's as if everyone understands that Jungkook is in a phase that needs to be respected. This reinforces the notion that what is happening is not an external problem, but rather an internal journey that he is going through very personally. On social media, the narrative is slowly changing.